Hey guys, welcome back. So today we are in studio. We want to talk about Palmetto State Armory. Joining us today is Jason.
Hey guys.
And Jason is going to be possibly coughing a little bit, whatnot. He's getting over a bug. And but we do want to talk about PSA, what a cool company they are, some of their history, some of their background, and some of the really cool products that they've brought to market, especially recently, and talk about the quality of those products. So one of the things that we both saw at the SHOT Show, what was it? That was the year COVID came out, right? So that was
very beginning. So it's been
January of 20, right? Mm-hmm. And we had seen the JAKL. Mm-hmm. It was at their booth along with a bunch of new AKs and all sorts of stuff they were working on. Did they have the Dagger there?
They did.
So the Dagger was there, the JAKL was there, and then a whole bunch of AKs, including a spiker and all sorts of really cool stuff.
Right.
I mean, they had a mob of people.
I know. I remember actually looking on there going, holy cow, that's a spiker. Holy cow. You know, like picking some cool things out because they had some really cool things on display.
Yeah.
Stuff to grab your attention, that's for sure.
And they did. They had a massive glob of people hanging out at the booth. And for those of you guys who don't know what a spiker is, we're talking about a folding spike bayonet type 56, kind of a Vietnam era type of AK. But anyway, so the JAKL caught my attention, and I can't say that I'm tired of the AR-15 M16. I absolutely adore the rifle. I think it's, to this day, one of the best military service rifles out there. But it's old, right? Mm-hmm. And I've been shooting them since I was a teenager. I don't want to get rid of them. I'm not trying to replace them. I'm just interested in new technology and new ideas, new twists. And I've often said that, you know, probably right around the late 1930s, let's just say World War II, anything that has been developed firearms-wise that would be new was developed by the end of World War II. Mm-hmm. Since that point, nothing new has come to market. Not a Glock, not anything. Everything had been done at that point, from machine guns, different locking mechanisms, striker fired, everything had been done.
Yep.
And now the guns that we have are bits and pieces of different things that were already developed, repackaged into things like the Glock that became wildly popular. Mm-hmm. But the Glock wasn't the first polymer framed pistol, wasn't the first striker fired pistol, wasn't the first at anything. But it was the first to package it in such a way that it became tremendously popular. So there's real value there, right? And so Palmetto State Armory has been taking a look at that. And I think I said in a recent video short here on YouTube that there are two companies that I'm impressed with. SIG, because of their innovation. Yes, I have problems with them, and I, kick them when they do things wrong and try to get them back into line as much as I can. But they innovate. They don't take a gun and run with it for 30 years like Glock. If something doesn't work, they terminate it, upsets some folks, but they always come up with something new and different. And same thing with Palmetto State Armory. Palmetto State Armory started off with AR-15s. And today they're like a affordable SIG, right? In terms of the breadth of products that they offer. Mm-hmm. So we were talking just before we started recording, what was your early perception of Palmetto State Armory products?
I viewed them as all trash, and that's being very blunt. Mm-hmm. Anytime I heard the name Palmetto State Armory, I was like, okay, this is just garbage. I'm not even going to look at it. I don't even want to look at the website. I don't even want to look at anything associated with it because I have seen so many horror stories come into this building of, well, I got this PSA, and it just ended the conversation for me because it's like, well, there's your problem. You know what I mean? Buy from a reputable manufacturer, whatever it may be.
And we've seen broken parts, broken bolts, broken all sorts of stuff from years ago.
But as time has progressed now, as things have moved forward, I've actually kind of started to look at some of their products now. One of my, I guess you could say, one of the ones that piqued my interest the most was the Rock, if you will, N57. Mm-hmm. So I actually thought, okay, here's a company that actually took the FN57 and packaged it with better ergonomics, better looks, better features, so red dot mounting, threaded barrel, better trigger, whatever it may be, And here, I mean, you have to shoot this gun to understand it. Like, it actually shoots really well. You can go really fast with this thing. Whereas the actual FN57 feels like this giant 2x4 still to this day in the hand. And I know they released some new model. Well, guess what? We've held it. Yeah. And it's literally like no different than what you currently could get on the shelf, the original 5.7. They added a Me Too backstrap, as you like to call it, and it doesn't do anything. It changes nothing.
It takes an already goofy grip and just makes it goofier.
Mm-hmm. They did they did red dot mount, I believe, but I haven't played around with mounting it, but it doesn't matter. The grip is all that I really truly cared about, and they made no changes to it. Whereas this has a very ergonomic pistol grip to it. Like, it feels good to shoot this gun. And so this is the one that actually was like, okay, let me take a look at some of their other stuff. And then you got this JAKL. Now, I remember in SHOT Show back when we saw it, they weren't letting people really touch it because it had started to like eat itself internally just from people messing with it, right? And so it was in a very early prototype stage at that point. And I just sat there, even again, like, oh my God, here we go. You know,
we can actually see the physical metal shavings inside of it and stuff.
But now here we have one now in 5.56, and I was out shooting this thing with you, and I was like, this thing actually shoots really nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think I'm starting to, definitely turn my ship and look at some of their products going, all right, what do we got?
I started looking at their products, I think around their Gen 3 AKs, right? Because like you, when people say, what's a good affordable AR-15? And I would say I wouldn't go any less than BCM, right? And that's what, $1,200 worth of gun, right?
$1,200, $1,300, yeah.
And you could buy a PSA back in the day for $500-$600.
Maybe even less.
Maybe even less, yeah. But I have PSA ARs now, and they run great. They look great, great fitment, great finish. They shoot, run, everything. And I think I can tie this to startup business, right? So PSA, like most companies, has a very modest start. I believe they started as a gun store, right? Palmetto State Armory. And they started slowly getting into manufacturing. And how you start off in manufacturing, typically to save money, so you don't have to invest a bunch of money up front, is you subcontract parts out. And so you get subcontractors building stuff for you, and the quality can vary. And those subcontractors and managing them is very difficult, right? I know enough about business to know that subcontracted parts and assembly is a very difficult way to go about things. If you bring stuff in-house, then you have control of the quality, right? And I think that's where PSA kind of started, that rough start. They're bringing more and more in-house. They've become so gigantic because of their great sales that they're acquiring bits and pieces of Freedom Group and stuff like that are falling apart. They're going out buying up formerly big name brands and internalizing them. So they have grown substantially. And with that, the quality of their guns has gone up to the point where I would put, you take this new Rock, for example, looking at this thing, this does not look like a budget gun in any way whatsoever. That grip has a perfect grip angle. I mean, if you look at that next to the grip of the 5.7, the 5.7 is just a long, goofy, silly grip angle that makes it, it's worse than a Glock. And a Glock isn't that bad. You can get used to it. But this is, for me, has been a difficult gun to shoot because I hate the grip angle. It's just awful. But they've made this thing where I think just about any hand will fit it. It's ergonomic. It has a perfect feel to it. The polymer is rock solid instead of having a polymer wrapped slide. Not that that's a problem with the FN. They work fine. We've tested them. They're exceptionally reliable guns. But having this metal slide aesthetically is very pleasing. Has great sights on it. It's cut for a red dot. And of course the new FN as well too, but that's just another Me Too thing. They're just trying to recapture market share. But when this is on the market for a fraction of the price of the 5.7, has better ergonomics, and our experience so far is every bit as reliable, better shooting, better trigger. Why even look at the 5.7 unless you're a military collector? Right. And so if you're looking for a 5.7, you have two really good choices. I liked the Ruger. I did too. I thought the Ruger was a good one. And if I'm not mistaken, these magazines are somewhat compatible. This one holds 23 rounds versus a 20 of the Ruger. And they don't make any guarantees that their mags will work in the Ruger gun, I believe, on their website. Right. But there's some commonality there. But this thing has no safety on it. And we'll do a whole video on this gun. But it's just a very clean implementation of a 5.7 pistol. All weapons have been checked. They're all empty, but it has typical delay system in it. And not that the FN doesn't. The FN has the same delay system in it, but for whatever reason, maybe it's due to slide mass, polymer with a little bit of sheet metal in it versus steel, but this thing just shoots more softly. It does. Not that the 5.7 is a huge recoiling cartridge anyway, but it is noticeably flatter shooting than the 5.7. Yep. The FN. And so, yeah, I really took an interest in the JAKL, and I think the JAKL is in the same vein as like the BRN 180, right? It uses a standard AR-15 lower, great for compatibility, great for low cost, great for buying accessories, but the upper is a completely different monster.
See,
it's
I
a
think
long stroke gas piston.
I think it's a hybrid between a BRN 180 and an ACR, or not an ACR, an XCR from
XCR.
Robinson, because Robinson uses a long stroke, piston system in their guns. And then the actual bolt carrier group on that reminds me of like a BRN 180. So
Yeah.
it is definitely a little hybrid thing, and it's got like 4 settings on there. But at the I do notice that with this particular gun, when we were out there, we had to start with M855 62 grain,
Yes.
high 5.56 loads. Once we put, I think it was about 50, 60 rounds of that through it, and then it would eat regular 223.
Right. I made the mistake of throwing in, I think, some Nautilus ammunition, 223 power. And it was kicking the case out, but it wasn't picking up another round out of the magazine. We had the gas set to its maximum gas setting, which is the 12 o'clock position. But like you said, we threw some M855 ball in there, fired a couple magazines of that. Now the thing will cycle anything.
So,
And I'm not a big fan of break-in periods, but as long as the thing continues to work like it has been now, perfectly fine with it.
I've kind of been changing my opinion on that. We'll have a
Yeah, that's another discussion.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, I've said if a gun malfunctions once during its break-in, like first 1,000 rounds, I'm shooting it. If it has 1 or 2 malfunctions, I'll never carry it because I'll never trust it. And I still, for duty carry guns, handguns, I still feel that way, right? The JAKL is not something that I would use as a replacement for my SIG or my ARs. But some people might consider it for self-defense, and I don't think it's a poor choice.
Right.
Make sure it works. But also it was interesting that the gun shipped with 2 gas plugs.
Yeah, it had a suppressor one and then a regular one there,
Yep.
so you could really tune the gas setting on this thing.
Right.
But
Very-
that goes
very
with
adjustable.
suppressors, because each suppressor is different. Like OSS being low back pressure, you probably wouldn't have to change to the suppressor plug at all on
Right.
that thing. Whereas you put some of the other ones on there, like the Griffin Explorer or whatever it may be, that have regular baffles in them, you may have to put that suppressor plug in there because you're going to overgas that system.
Right.
But another cool thing that I've noticed with PSA that I'm starting to come around to is the fact that, yes, I looked at their products and said, oh my God, if you think about it, buy a $450, $500 AR, just think, you get what you pay for. That used to be the phrase I always said.
Right.
Well, I have to look at it another way. There are some people out there that is all they can get. And I have to think back and go, okay, I would rather them have a Palmetto State Armory AR that's $500 than nothing at all.
I agree 100%. And so the Dagger is a compact. This particular one is a compact carry gun. It has really good ergonomics. Now, people are going to say that this looks like a Glock, and it does have the appearance of a Glock. It's not a Glock. But some parts, I think, do switch between the two guns.
There's some parts,
but it's its own gun.
compatibility. But yeah, but that is its own gun. Like if you actually really deep dive look at this gun, it's not a Glock at
Right.
all.
It has common features. Some parts are interchangeable, just like with the JAKL. It's not an AR-15. It takes an AR-15 trigger, uses AR-15 magazines, doesn't make it an AR-15.
Right.
But it does use Glock magazines that ships with the P-mags. But everything about this gun is outstanding in terms of quality. If I look at this compared to a Glock looks like a quality handgun with their current finishes and stuff like that. But the polymer on this looks just better to me. The Glock polymers always look chintzy and cheap to me, and that's just a matter of opinion. I'm not trying to tear apart Glock, but this thing just has a good feel to it. One of the things that I always thought was funny with the Glock, I can literally grab the bottom of it and pinch the magazine well and cause it to collapse. The polymer's so thin and pliable. This, I can't get it to budge. It's a more durable polymer. That's not to say it's better. It's just something that I noticed. I also like the fact that Glock is doing stupid things now. I guess I didn't want to beat up on Glock, but I need to point this out in their Gen 5 guns. They flared the grip out to make a magazine funnel, and in doing so, the flare comes out past the magazine foreplate. So if you have a hard stoppage and you need to strip the magazine out of the gun, you have no real way to get a hold of the magazine except to pinch it in the front and rear like this, which is completely awkward. If you take a look at how this Dagger's cut, it has a deep cut here, which gives you access to that base plate, and you can yank that sucker out of there no matter how hard it's stuck. And it's that little attention to detail. The forward slide serrations, they have a lot more cosmetic cuts to it where it's not so angular like a Glock. It's just a well-designed, very reliable, good shooting gun.
Yeah, so I noticed with this particular pistol, they got a nice undercut on the trigger guard here. The trigger, I happen to like this. Instead of having that little dingus in the center, they kind of take that M&P route, if you will, where they have like that hinge plate, and I think that allows for more leverage.
Yep.
I mean, I want to say in like Grand Thumb's freeze test or something like that, that ended up being beneficial, having that trigger shoe like that because it gave more leverage to break that free. And so far, now I shot this particular pistol. The grip does feel a little bit fatter. There is no back straps to this particular one here. I shot this one. I got a little bit of slide bite from it. So there is a little bit of a beaver tail here, but it's not as pronounced as like the Shadow Systems ones where I don't get any slide bite at all. But this was actually a very shootable pistol. And about a mag, I was already, bullseye and all sorts of stuff all up there. So, I mean, this thing was actually a really nice shooting pistol. And so, again, like you say, fraction of the price of most things out there. So,
yeah. And that's kind of their motto that I really like. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the website in front of me, but they want to make guns affordable so that every American can afford to be armed. And I think that's a very noble cause, right? Because we already know more guns equals less crime, to the contrary of what the anti-gunners will tell you. And so being able to have an affordable, well-made handgun or rifle or pistol, shotgun, whatever, is good. Because like you said, not everybody can afford a $1,000 handgun or a $1,500 AR. There are people out there that need to be able to get a firearm, but they want it at $500 because that's what they can afford. And I'm all for that. And Palmetto State Armory has definitely filled that niche, and it's impressive. And like you in the beginning, I had very little interest in their products. I remember the flap with their early AKs. They claimed that the trunnions were forged, and turned out people said that they weren't. But we're in like the Gen 4, Gen 5 of their AKs. I have several. Love them.
Yeah,
great rifles.
So far, I mean, they're still trucking right along. The other thing that I find cool, we don't have any out here on the table, is the fact that they had come out with like pistol caliber firearms and other things that had utilized magazines that allowed them to be more reliable. For instance, like Scorpion mags and things, right? So you get the curved 9mm magazine. So you would have that magazine functioning in all sorts of different firearms, for 9mm, so you could get that reliability. The AKX9, they gave, it's
AKV.
AKV9. AKV9. That was a 9mm AK that we put through the gauntlet that shredded right along through it. It had that MAC bracket, I want to say, that they put in there because we discovered some problems in the beginning.
Right.
And they're like, okay, looked at it, fixed it. You can't stop that gun.
Yeah, and that's another thing I want to give kudos to PSA for. And no, this isn't a paid commercial for PSA. They don't even know we're making this video. When I purchased that AKV9.
Yeah, I remember this.
All the reviews were just glowing. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is the greatest thing ever. And we got it, and it was having all sorts of problems.
Yep.
Rounds falling behind the bolt, spent cases falling behind the bolt, loaded rounds, complete rounds falling behind the bolt, and just malfunctions. And what happens if that little rubber buffer erodes, because all those rubber buffers wear out, get dry rot, whatever. If you take that out, the bolt would go all the way to the rear, would hang up on the hammer, and the gun would stop working.
Right.
And we pointed all that out in video. And instead of PSA coming out and talking trash on me and saying I'm an idiot, they stopped production. They went back to the drawing board. They fixed those issues and named one of the fixes the MAC bracket. And they care. They listened. They took constructive criticism of that video and turned it around into a bonus. They sold so many more guns because of that. Because if you read the comment section of the follow-up video, when we talked about the MAC bracket, everybody was saying, that's customer service. That's how companies should behave. That's what we expect to see from a company. So PSA all across the board is just crushing it. And they even made their own video where they called it the MAC bracket in video. And it's not just because they called it the MAC bracket that I'm impressed. I'm impressed that they're listening to criticism, and not just because so many companies will take criticism and then just say, you're an idiot. You don't know how to work the gun. Strybog, perfect example. All the Strybog guys, everybody knows you don't clear the gun with the muzzle pointed up, dummy. You got to point the muzzle down if you're going to clear it. Dude, when you're in a gunfight or whatever, you're not going to be paying attention to where your muzzle's pointed. You could be behind cover and need to point the muzzle up to clear a malfunction, whatever. No gun should malfunction with a round falling behind the bolt because the muzzle's pointed up. It shouldn't happen. You're making excuses. But there are just people out there that are apologists for whatever brand it is that they love. And I'm not. I don't care what gun it is. If it breaks, I don't care if it's CZ, whatever, I'm going to show it being broken and say, well, I'm moving on, guys, and this is why. Because I am loyal to whatever works best and whatnot. I'm not going to make excuses for products. And so they listened, they fixed it, and they continue to make really, really cool products.
So right out of the box, the Rock, 0 malfunctions. Runs like a sewing machine.
Yep.
Dagger, same thing.
Yep.
This JAKL, a little bit of a break-in period, but you know what? I look at that break-in period as you shouldn't go and buy this gun and not fire a single round through it and put in some hollow points in there and put it in your bedside safe. You shouldn't do that.
No, I agree.
You should take this gun out and you should be shooting at least a few hundred rounds through the thing and getting familiar with its controls and how it works and shooting it.
And making sure it
used to
works with the ammunition you've loaded it with.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So in terms of a break-in period, you'll discover that, once you actually start shooting a gun. Some companies, Shadow Systems, let you know, hey, our guns have a break-in period of 100 to 200 rounds generally, sometimes less. But they let you know up front. And they even did a video to tell you why it's like that. So, I particularly like their guns recently, so I've been messing around with a lot of them lately.
And you had some hiccups.
Right, and especially in that DR 920p. But right now, it runs like a sewing machine. Now, it took more than 200 rounds to break in. Mine was probably up in the 400 to 500 rounds before it started running. But I also did not change the spring. You know what I mean? They come with an extra spring in there so you wouldn't have that problem.
Oh, okay.
I just kept cycling right on through it because I was like, it'll work itself out.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So in general, so they took care of it by providing an additional spring.
And it's in the box.
But if it goes back to Kimber. Right, I'm still not a fan of Kimber 1911s. I think the quality on them is horrific, and it has been horrific for years. But they single-handedly, in my opinion, gave 1911s a bad name.
Oh, yes.
Because they used the cheapest MIM parts they can find. There's nothing wrong with MIM. MIM is used even by H&K. MIM is used in airplane engines. MIM is used in car motors. MIM is used, if it's the right application, it's properly manufactured. There's zero problems with MIM. It is a fine manufacturing process until you cheap out on it. But you can cheap out on tool steel and not harden it properly. There's so many things you can cheap out on, not just MIM, that will cause failures of some kind. And then Kimber had this 500 round break-in period, I think it was. And why would you buy a $1,500+ handgun and then go out and buy $1,000 worth of ammunition and have to clear malfunctions for 1,000 rounds, 500 rounds, before your $1,500 handgun kind of starts to work? At what point does it really work, right? So if it's just barely working from the break-in period, okay, so that tells me if a little speck of dust gets in there, it's going to jam. So I'm going to probably have to shoot it even more to wear even more surfaces to get it to the point where I think, maybe, possibly I can trust it. And that's why I don't carry guns that require break-in periods, because there's so many guns out there, the vast majority, Glocks included, I've taken right out of the box, haven't put a drop of oil on them, and ran them like crazy and never experienced one hiccup. And so that's the gun I'm going to lean towards if I'm going to pick a carry gun. And that's just my opinion on break-in periods. Some people out there think they're fine and believe in them, and hey, man, whatever flops your mouth.
Well, exactly. I mean, you do you. But back to PSA, one of the things that I kind of wanted to point out, the AK. All right, so like you said, we're on probably Gen 4, Gen 5. I'm not entirely sure because I don't really pay attention to the AK. It's not a gun that I particularly look at anymore. But look at like Century Arms. Okay, let's go back to Viscas and RAS 47s and all this other stuff. Problems. I mean, we were down.
Decades go by. Problems.
Then they just recently released a new model. We'll call it, a Visca 9.0 for whatever it could be, right?
Isn't that the one with the RPK style receiver or something?
I think so. Off the bat recall. I mean, at some point, what's going on here? Have you not figured out what the problem is? But at least Palmetto State Armory goes, we have a problem here, fix it. We have a problem here, fix it. We have a problem here, fix it.
Right.
And then the next thing you know, like your AKs, you have a solid American-made AK. In a world where imported AKs are going for a lot of money. You know what I mean? So if you want to get into an AK, Palmettos are actually fairly affordable, and then you can get into an AK.
Yep. And you got Kalashnikov USA that's cranking out.
Right.
Flawless reproductions.
Oh, dude, I can't say enough about those guys. Those guns are amazing for what they are right out of the box.
So we got two good choices for AKs in the United States now. But yeah, so I think comparing PSA to Century Arms, I can only speculate here, just a matter of opinion. I think Century is more focused on cost. They want to produce things as cheaply as possible to maximize profits. And they don't care about quality controls. They figure, well, if we sell 100 guns and, 10 of them come back, 20 of them come back, just the cost of doing business. We'll just fix it and send it out, or tell you that your warranty is invalid like they did me, because their warranty started, I don't know if they still do this, but the warranty started the day of manufacture. And then it goes to a gun store, sits on a gun shelf for 6 months before somebody buys it. Some sucker like me bought one of their Polish Tantals. And then the gun didn't work. It was keyholing. I contacted them and they said, oh, your warranty's expired. I said, how is it expired? I bought the gun 3 days ago. Well, the clock starts ticking the day we manufacture it.
Interesting.
So anyway,
yeah, that's all.
But
even
PSA,
my opinion and speculation in terms of things.
I think PSA has found that mix of trying to keep costs low, but keeping the quality there where they don't have the same problems that companies like Century Arms have. And that's just my opinion. But I truly think, just looking at the evolutionary path that PSA has taken over the last few years, the quality of their guns is undeniable. They're doing a great job. And it's such a great American company that I want to support them, because I love their mission. I love the fact that they want to produce guns for the regular person.
Yep.
And that seems to be what they're doing. And that new Rock, I like I said, I like the Ruger. That Rock
that gun's cool.
It's amazing. And I'm not a big Glock guy. So I've kind of moved on to smaller handguns than this, but I would say this is roughly about the same size as a Glock 19. So if you're looking for something other than a Glock, I agree with you. The trigger on this, I like the hinged one-part trigger. I've never cared for that dingus. It always gave me a weird feel. And then if you're shooting the guns a lot, you'll actually start to really feel it in the pad of your finger. This seems to be a more smooth trigger pull, and it seems a little bit more ergonomic. Like you said, it seems to be borrowed heavily from the Smith & Wesson line of M&P series of pistols. And in those, I typically like a flat face trigger. But anyway, I'm sure there's drop-in triggers available for this. I haven't really taken a look at it. I don't know how many of those components are compatible with existing drop-in triggers that are out there, but I'm sure somebody knows that's watching the video. So anyway, we will be talking more about these guns. So we do want to get the JAKL out. We want to run a lot more ammunition through it, do some accuracy tests with it, and get some rounds through it. Right now, we only probably have a couple hundred rounds through it, so we can't really give an opinion of it. Same thing with the Rock. We just started shooting this handgun. I love the fact that it's got a threaded barrel. I want to see how that's going to work, because I know that 5.7 pistols have a tendency to not take well to being suppressed, which is presumably why FN hasn't released a threaded barrel for theirs. But apparently PSA solved the problem, kind of like Pro Mag made an 18-round magazine before Glock made a 15-round magazine for their G44.
Right.
Not that I'm saying Pro Mag's good. They still make junky products. But yeah, so this thing really appealed to me. I really like the way it shoots, and I think that's a great option for people out there looking for the 5.7. I also think it's awesome that more companies are making 5.7 chambered firearms, simply because for the longest time all we had was the PS90 and the FN 5.7.
Yep.
And now we have the new Ruger carbine that's out there. We have the Rock from PSA. We have the Ruger pistol, and I think that's going to push the market more towards making more of those 5.7 pistols. Hopefully that'll bring the cost of ammunition down as companies increase the production of that ammunition.
Yep.
So
CMMG.
All good stuff.
CMMG even makes a little like AR pistol.
That's right. They do. Yeah, the Banshee, I think, right? They have a 5.7. So there's more and more of those products hitting the market. So we will talk more about these in depth. We just wanted to make a video talking about PSA just in general,
yeah.
just to thank them for what they're doing. So many times there's so many people in the gun community out there just love tearing companies apart, each other apart, just for any reason whatsoever. And there's companies out there that don't deserve that deserve a pat on the back for what they're doing. And just the trolling on the internet's outrageous. But PSA is one of those companies I want to pat on the back and encourage them, because I think that they have a bright future. I think the quality is going to continue to improve, and I think that they're going to continue to innovate, because obviously they're making money. And with that money, they're reinvesting that into R&D, which means new products.
Yep.
And so we should support companies like PSA so that they can continue to evolve.
Yep.
So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video talking about PSA, some of the offerings that they have, some of the new stuff that they're doing, and just them as a company in general. And like I said before, PSA has no idea we're making this video. This is not a paid advertisement for PSA. This is a heartfelt video that we were just out shooting at the range the other day going, man, these guys are really crushing it. Let's make a video and talk about that. So if you guys have any comments regarding your experiences with PSA and, you know, the tack that they've taken over the last few years and the products, you know, if you've got an AR-15 that's ran great, or if you have one of the new products that you love, or if there's something that we didn't include in this video, just comment down below, because we get a lot of our video ideas from the comments that you guys make on our videos. So please do comment. Also, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, a great way to do that is to become part of our Patreon family. There is a link in the video description below to join our Patreon family. Right here on YouTube, you got that little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Mash that join button and you can support us right here on YouTube in the age of demonetization. And last but not least, please check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 14 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Take care, guys.